Hi everyone, thank you for joining my session. And today I'm sharing about this topic of invisible thieves in the front yard, from an advanced evasive edge device attack to potential mitigation methods. So the first thing is acknowledgement. I want to thank all our IR team members in CHT security that makes this report possible. And a little bit about me, I'm Ting-Wei, and I'm a malware analyst at CHT Security. I'm interested in x86 and x64 Windows Linux malware and .NET Java malware and packers. So this is an overview of the incident that we responded to. We uncovered an espionage campaign that compromised a cloud service provider in Taiwan, and our investigation suggested that the threat actor exploited the CVE 2019-19781, which is an end day. And multiple malware samples was discovered on compromised devices, including the main topic, which is the magic locksmith, and other tiny shell-based backdoors, and ELF plead. And I will talk about a little bit about the credential and data exfiltration methods they used. And the most important thing is that what can we learn from this incident? So the first thing I'd like to talk about is that the threat actor actually primarily focused on edge devices in this case. So, for example, like SSL VPNs and load balancers, routers, etc. But why target edge devices? The first thing is that they are often directly accessible from the internet, so the attacker can touch them from anywhere around the world. And the second is that almost none of them have any antivirus or malware detection EDRs, none of them on them. So basically you can go into them and do whatever you want without getting automatically blocked. And the third part is the high throughput. In this case, that the compromised device specifically are load balancers, and it's really difficult to detect any anomalous connections or network traffic. And the list actually goes on. For example, like in this case, the operators of these devices didn't bother to update them for various reasons. And there are actually many previous examples from other vendors. For example, in 2023, Google Cloud, the Mandiant team, uncovered a campaign exploiting FortiOS vulnerabilities. And later that year, another campaign, again, exploiting Fortinet devices. Then earlier this year, the same group, the Google Cloud group, uncovered a campaign that exploited Ivanti appliances. And later, a couple of months later, they uncovered another group exploiting Juniper routers. And not just Google Clouds, the Recorded Future published a report earlier this year saying that they found a campaign targeting Cisco devices. And let's talk about a little bit about the backdoors. So one of the most common backdoors we've found is that the attacker really likes to use tiny shell. And there are various reasons we think why the attackers like it. The first is that it's an old open source project. So you can just grab the source code and do whatever you want. And the second one is the code structure is really simple. It has only 3 tasks. So it can download file, get file, it can upload file to compromised devices, put file, and the third one, run shell, is to run an arbitrary shell command on the compromised devices. It's easy to customize, and it runs on various stripped down or highly customized Linux or BSD distributions. And it also offers basic encryptions, so it can hide from basic analysis tools. And this backdoor operates in 2 modes. The first mode is TCP server mode. It listens to an open port. And the second is the TCP client mode, where it tries to connect to the C2 server for every few seconds. And for the attacker, there's a problem. So for the server mode, it actually has to bind to a specific TCP port. So you can check that by using something like netstat. And for client mode, you have to connect to the specific C2 server for every few seconds. So if you are looking into the traffic data, you can see something is weird trying to connect to something else. So the attacker often use the magic packet. The magic packet is something like a port knocker. So instead of using TCP or UDP ports, it just used something like PCAP or BPF filter to look into all inbound packets and see if there's any specific pattern in those packets. If so, then it turns on or turns off. And the good part for using this method is that the malware can remain dormant and hidden from network analysis tools for a long time. And this is an old technique. It is public since I think late 1990s or early 2000s, and it is still very effective to this day. And the most previous intrusions published by others, the malware samples used in those reports usually use static patterns. So in this case, you can see one of the reports from Google. They published a list of Suricata rules that can help you filter out malicious traffic or detect live traffic from live devices. And during our investigation, we uncovered a very special malware samples we named Magic Locksmith. I'll talk about the naming later. But the first technique they used is that they use a fully dynamic magic packet pattern. They grab the first 16 bytes of the packet data, say TCP, UDP, or ICMP, and take the following 16 bytes. So in total, 32 bytes, and they XOR them together to produce a 16-byte stream. And the 16-byte buffer has to match the hard-coded value shown in the image. And the attacker also used the magic pattern, so the first 32 bytes of the packet data to as a RC4 key to decrypt the following data in the same magic packet. The data decrypted into C2 configurations shown in the image. And the advantage of using a dynamic magic packet like this is that for this example, it produces up to 2 to the 128 different patterns. And it's basically very, very difficult to write any Suricata rules for this kind of packets, and you have to rely on Lua scripts. But for Lua scripts, especially if you have devices that have high throughputs, it's basically not feasible to run those Lua scripts for those devices. It's too slow. Okay. And later I'll talk about the encryption in both the original Tiny Shell and the Magic Locksmith. So the original Tiny Shell uses this very simple traffic encryption scheme. The original author actually says that this is insecure. It's just for hiding the traffic from basic tools. So by default, when a TCP connection between the backdoor and C2 is established, the C2 sends a time-based seed to the implant. And the implant will calculate the hash for the secret, the hard-coded secret, and the seeds received from the C2. And the C2 does the same, but with a user-provided password, the attacker-provided password. And both of them tries to derive AES keys from those hashes. And the C2 would send a hard-coded challenge encrypted with the keys it derived to the backdoor. And the backdoor tries to use the keys it derived to decrypt the encrypted traffic from the C2. And if the challenge matches, then it goes to run the task received from the C2 and return the result to the C2 server. And since the secret is hard-coded in the samples, and if we have packet sniffers that can capture the seeds, we can derive all the AES keys and decrypt the task and the results sent between the C2 and the backdoor. So each command in a tiny shell has a dedicated session, and each session has its own keys. So this makes it easier for analysts to decrypt a backdoor traffic between the C2 and the backdoor, since you have to run each task in a different session. So in Magic Locksmith, they opted to use another customized ECDH-based key exchange scheme. And the constant here shown are the public keys from the C2 server. These are hard-coded in the malware sample, so it is basically impossible to do any man-in-the-middle attack. Oops. So this is the key exchange scheme used in the Magic Locksmith backdoor. First, the backdoor generates two random key pairs, the KR and KQ. And then the backdoor calculates the public key, or a point, PS, using the second random key KQ and the public key from the C2 server, PC. And it's then add the public point PS together with PR, the first random key public point, to produce PA, and it then sends the public key from the shared secret derivation, PQ, and the public point added together, PA, to the C2 server. And then the C2 server can rederive the shared secret using its own C2 private key, and then recover the first random public key, PR, from the received 2 points. And since the traffic only contains PQ and PA, it's impossible to derive PR and PS from those traffic. So the attacker used the PR, the first random key public part, as the symmetric key seeds. Okay. And the second part for the Magic Locksmith cryptographic implementation is why we named it Magic Locksmith. So instead of using standard AES, it uses a custom set of Rydell constants. So here, the first part is the S-box. The S-box is basically a one-to-one byte mapping, and since these elements are working in the Gauss field of 2 to the power of 8, so most of them are written in polynomials, and each polynomial term actually represents a bit. So in the standard AES, the constants are used like this, the modulo M and the affine matrix. The affine matrix are just shifted for each row, so you can just represent the whole matrix with just one line. And the shifting vector C those are on the right. Oops, okay. And the constants or the parameters used in a Magic Locksmith is on the left. It's different. And I'd like to highlight that the attackers seem to make sure that the bit count for each parameter is the same of that in the constants in the AES. And here is where we found the constants in the malware. And the second part is the mixed columns coefficients. And the upper half, the green lines, are the constants used in the AES. And on the bottom, the red part is the constant used in the Magic Locksmith. And again, here is where we found the constants, the coefficients of the mixed column in the malware sample. Okay, so I'd like to talk a little bit about data exfiltration methods we uncovered. So the attacker really liked to use TCP dump in this case. And we found multiple PCAP files from the open directory C2 on the C2 server, and also on the compromised devices. And you can, if we open one of the PCAP files, we can see the TCP dump command used by the attacker. And we found several binaries on the C2 Open Directory server. This is one of them written in C, and it shows the attacker was trying to target a specific Citrix appliance in the target environment. And it uses this binary to filter out those packets from a packet dump. And there are other Golang-based tools. The image on the left shows the credentials dumped from a Golang tool that parsed several PCAP files and extract certain HTTP headers. And those credentials are then passed to the other Golang tools used to interact with the victim's WebDAV server. And we also found custom Python scripts that traverse through the whole WebDAV server and look for certain files with certain keywords in their names to exfiltrate, automatically download them all. And sorry for that, I have to redact those keywords highlighted by yellow rectangles, but you can insert anything you think is top secret in there. So again, why target edge devices? And other from the previously mentioned advantages, I think one of them is that multiple services are bundled in one device. So in this case, the attacker attacked or exploited a vulnerability in the SSL VPN part, and then they can compromise the whole load balancer. And since this load balancer handles all the traffic from all over the world to certain confidential services, they can use that device to dump the traffic and extract all the valuable credentials from that specific device. And I'd like to talk a little bit about attribution. So earlier this year, we found a Bifrost sample. In this sample, it actually implements a similar magic packet procedure, but it used a static pattern. And this is not point, but we found that the decrypted magic packet, which contains the operational type, has the similar constant. So on the right is the magic. On the left is the magic locksmith. You can find the 2ABBCCDD and AABBCCDD. And on the right is the newly discovered new Bifrost sample, and we can find the same constant used as the operational ID. But those IDs are probably not implemented fully at the time of this discovery. And also in Bifrost, we found that the modified RC4 actually resemble a similar pattern. So in these samples, the RC4 encryption or decryption function takes another parameter I named mode, and the mode is a single byte, which the leading bit determines whether it has to do the XOR first or do an extra addition first. So we can find that the mode determination is the same, and the XOR and plus or addition, the sequence is actually the same. And since this kind of Bifrost using customized RC4 is almost uniquely used by Black Tech, so we have high confidence that this attack and the samples are carried out by the Black Tech attacking group or APT group. So I think the most important part is that what can we learn from this incident? So the first thing is that apply patches as soon as possible. In this case, the operators of these edge devices have various concerns, and there were probably no protocols for updates. So they just left their devices vulnerable for a very long time. And at the time of the exploit, the CVE 2019 19781 is actually an end day. And it is really important to set up a protocol to handle update patches when they come out. I think this is very important since edge devices are usually handling very crucial services and cannot afford downtime. And second, avoid weak or reused passwords. I think this is very old, but we've also found brute forcing tools on the C2 servers, and we think that it is not a good idea to have any of your passwords landing in one of their dictionaries. And the third one is that LAN honeypots may help. And this is really interesting because our client contacted us for initializing this investigation because they found anomalous traffic or connection attempts within their intranet. So maybe if we have LAN honeypots already available in the network, we can alert the operators that, oh, something went wrong or something is trying to connect to it without any good reasons, and we can trigger an investigation right away. And the last part is that confidential data transfer should be securely encrypted and signed, even within LAN. So in this case, the attacker used TCP dump to dump credentials to a certain web app server that contains various highly confidential documents. And this is possible because the traffic within the intranet is not encrypted. And the signed part is that if it is not signed, then the attacker on those devices can use MITM to produce, basically they produce a fraudulent TLS certificate for that server and replace the original one with theirs, and they can decrypt all the traffic. So it's crucial to try to encrypt and sign the traffic even within the LAN. And sometimes this is not really feasible because if you have a WAF, the WAF have to decrypt and inspect the raw traffic, the raw HTTP traffic to determine whether it's good or bad. So there's I think a workaround is that maybe use a dedicated WAF device for those services instead of bundling, including like SSL VPNs or other services into one device. So the attacker wouldn't be able to touch the SSL VPN part, which are quite often vulnerable in some ways. Okay, so for manufacturers, we have several recommendations. The first part is the privilege separation between different services. So one device may contain SSL VPN, load balancing, routing, etc. And I think this is important to have all of them separated into different OS privilege containers. So if the attacker compromised or exploited, say, SSL VPN or the web interfaces, they cannot go get the full root access to that device or compromise the load balancing parts. And second is to provide on-demand integrity validation tools. So this is for post-exploitation checks. So should an attacker compromised or should an intrusion occur, the operators can use those tools to check whether the device is still in the good state, or maybe it has been modified in a certain way that is not desired. Third is to provide low-level access for forensic tools and low-level access or forensic tools to licensed users. Again, this is for post-exploitation. So if something really went wrong and we found that, oh, the device is compromised or an intrusion has occurred from a end day or even a 0 day, the operators can go into that device and check, oh, what files are bad, and take those files out and check whether we can recover the vulnerability from that device or we can recover malware and determine the affected scope. And that last is the log the log all the privileged operations and commands on the target edge device. So if something went wrong and the attacker executed, say, like TCP dump, there should be a log for that command for the operators to check. And even better, if something like TCP dump is not intended on that device, it should be alerted so the operators can instantly know that, oh, something went really wrong and the attacker is trying to execute the command on that device. And that's all. Thank you. Thank you for joining my session.